USA Warrior Stories is a not-for-profit organization designed to record, archive, and share videos of veteran stories, to help veterans make a connection with one another and to help us all better understand their sacrifices for our freedoms.
It's a long, long way to go. It's a long, long pull with our hatches full.
My name is Thomas Linwood Cavallo. I was born in Glassboro, New Jersey in 1926. When I was 17 years old, I knew that the war was on naturally. I decided that I would like to be a sailor. I did try for the Navy, and they rejected me on partial color blindness. So the next thing would be the Merchant Marines, which I joined in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I had one uncle that was in the Merchant Marines. He only made one trip. He said it was too dangerous to sail, but this was back in 1942, the end of 1942. He told me, he says, that was a hell of a ride. He says, because he's seen tankers just blow up. So I was kind of hesitant about it, but it had a couple years had passed. It was now in 44, and they sent me to Sheepshead Bay in New York for training. I took training in Sheepshead, basic, and then I took advanced training as a cook and baker. Well, in Sheepshead Bay, I took the regular, it's a 10-week course, and when I took my advanced training, well, they made us march. We had lifeboat training, and we had other schooling compared to seamanship. The first ship was Northern Sun. It was a T2 tanker. We went to Venezuela, Aruba, the same thing my uncle took, and I had my fingers crossed, but we made it okay. After the second ship, I got off of that and got on a freighter, which was a Lily Norton, and I was third cook on board that. The third ship was a freighter. I believe it was a Liberty ship, and that was in 45 for the Med. It was a Mediterranean trip. Yeah, it was the first convoy. Naturally, we had guns on board the ship. The gun crew let some of the regular crew shoot the 20 millimeters. They had tracers, and so they figured they might as well teach us how to do it and to help them out too. Well, we had armed guard on board ship at the time.
Did you have any problems with the armed guard during the war years?
Well, there's a few of them say, well, you make more money than we do. But at the time, it wasn't that much more. But I mean, the majority of them, we were friends with them. Well, naturally, in the back of your mind, you hope you make it. I mean, it's kind of hard to say. I mean, like anything else, you take a job, and the first job you have, you're leery. But then after you learn how to do the job, you're not worried anymore. But backing up to the Lily Norton, we had to come back empty. And we had a storm, and the storm was so bad, so the captain ordered pump some water in the holes. If you know what the holes are, at the bottom of the holes they have a deck, boards so thick. And so he took the beams, the metal beams from the hatch, and laid them on top of the boards on the bottom, and put water in the bottom hole, so the ship would, be down. Well, that worked for a little while, but then we started hearing banging. What happened is some of the boards got loose and floated up above, and every swell would bang, boom, bang. So we did have to go down climb down the ladder. So you have a tween deck and a bottom deck. We had to go to the tween deck and lasso and rope those boards and tie them to the ladder and stuff like that to keep them from swooshing. But it was one hell of a storm, though, because we were bouncing all over. But coming back empty was really the wrong thing to do. And during the World War II, the actual dates, I sailed on 4 different ships. They were 2 tankers and 2 freighters. After we come back from Europe, we pulled into New York and was in New York. And right after that, the VJ Day came around, and I was actually in the city when that sailor got to kiss that girl. I didn't actually see it, but I was there. And after the war on a victory ship, they transferred the deck department into a stall for horses. I had one trip, went over to Poland and with a load of horses on board deck, plus the cargo in the hold. But they actually made stalls and went right down either side of the deck. And on the way too, a couple of them died, and we just shark bait, had to dump them over the side. Well, then when I went back as a sail again, I went back as a deck department, and I sailed on deck department. I sailed freighters, which are Victories, and Liberty ships. I made a couple trips on each, and another trip I went back over to Mediterranean, and I stopped and seen the Leaning Tower of Pisa, which I went and had my picture taken in front of. And we also went to Greece and Turkey, and then back over to the States. I also made a trip to the Med and then went up to Sweden and Norway and Denmark. And from there, we went down to Brazil, which I happened to hit right during the Mardi Gras. And so I spent 28 days in Rio, Brazil, which was Sa Rigondo, as they called it. We had like airplanes one time on top of they were just the fuselages of airplanes on top of our deck. And after they batten the hatches down, they put them on top of the hatches. And we also had tanks down in the hold and trucks. I mean, it was for transporting all that stuff. Because even though the war was over in 45, 46 was still messed up over there, and they still needed equipment. Well, on one ship we were loading supplies, like for food and stuff like that. And we had a winch and a pulley and whatnot. Instead of raising a boom out, we made a smaller one. And we had one guy on a winch with a line around the winch hauling the stuff up. And then he'd slack off, and then we'd haul again. And he was by himself without an operator on it. And he went to get the line. His line started to cross. And when he did, he caught his hand, and it flipped him around about 3 times and tore his arm off. And we was over in Pakistan then. And we had to take him to the hospital, and he stayed there. I never know what happened to him. Never heard from him again. He should have had another man operating the winch. When Korea was going on, I went to Korea with supplies, but that was after the World War II. And we took stuff to Busan, I believe it was, in South Korea.
During the war?
Yeah. And we was in Japan and in India. I've been all over the place, more or less. Altogether, I must have sailed between 12 and 14 different ships. After all the years, we finally got a recognition. Well, I got this medal, but it's for everybody. I mean, it's not just for me, it's for ones that didn't make it back. Yeah, it was kind of hard to talk about.
It is.
It is, yeah. I mean, you think people, you're trying to make people think you're a big hero or something, you know? And actually, it was just something we done. It was a job and you done it. And I appreciate it.